featuring Bermuda, with the flight path starting all the way from the eastern side, ending off at the western side, cutting through Keratin, Bima Static Strip, as well as Hangar. It does seem like most of these teams will be pretty widespread across the map, from the northern side all the way to the southern side.
Yeah, this kind of brings me back to the old days. I remember when Free Fire first came out, and I was there. I was there during the earlier days, and Bermuda is kind of like a household name. You hear of Bermuda, you just think of all these moments even before like they kind of revamped the map, where Pochino it's going to be the name that you always hear. You hear of Bimasakti Strip every once in a while. Sometimes you hear of Cape Town and Kota Tua. But I don't know, like for me, even though Pochino is the household name, I kind of remember Bimasakti Strip the most because it strikes me as the tongue twister, but also the middle line, the middle line that draws across the hemisphere.
Indeed. I mean, ultimately, whichever town or whichever landmark is right smack in the center of the map usually will have quite a good number of focus as well as amount of highway traffic. But it does seem like sometimes choke zones, choke areas just kind of switched one way or another. Sometimes it's Bima, actually most of the time it's like Bima Static Strip, sometimes it's Peak, sometimes it's Pochinok, although most of the time it's Pochinok. I have no idea why as well, since Bima Static Strip is actually the center of the map. These are the kind of things that just kind of bewilders you for like most of the time, probably because of Bermuda Triangle. I really need to stray away from that topic for now. But let's just take a look and more into the game and how it all is going to transcend onto. Because for now, we do have, like I said before, most of these teams, they are all pretty widespread all across the map, right? We are not looking at any early game actions just for now. And it may or may not be a new thing for some of these players. But one thing I would like to take note of is the aggression of Divinity Esports, because they are always aggressive. And I would really start to believe that they are going to start to find people to kill, which is right about now, because they are now going to be in contact. And I don't think that things are looking good for Steady Squad. The only thing that's going to be separating between them as well as Divinity Esports is literally some glue walls and a couple of fences. They gotta have to get themselves out of there.
Yeah, and I think the aggression is going to pay off in these kind of situations, right? Because if you look at where Steady Squads are positioned, they're pretty much spread out from each other. But Lemon's going to start things off by gunning down Void's face, so that is going to ease the pressure that Steady Squad is facing right now. However, next up for them is how can they get near that compound, because this map is not really showing Steady Squad in a good position. They have Divinity surrounded, but breaching into Divinity's territory and taking over that compound is going to be a different challenge. So I want to see what they can bring to the table, at least at this stage of the game.
And at this moment of time, it does seem like Watch and Learn do have a little bit of an encounter from their side. And while we are still looking at Divinity versus Steady Squad, it does seem like auto knockout from the other side of the map is also coming in close and may actually be just sandwiching Steady Squad. But for now, we do have a lot of casualties all around the map. We do have Watch and Learn. I believe that they got a couple of 3 kills. AV Ligers, they have also gotten themselves with a couple of kills. Unfortunately, I did not quite catch which team is the victim. But even if the victim is being said and done or showed, it doesn't seem like an entire team has been wiped out just yet. And speaking of wiping out, one of these teams may actually be wiped out soon.
Yeah, and it's just a massive gunfight. Watch and Learn, they are just going to continue this onslaught. They want to take over this compound and just to gain themselves the control over Graveyard. And as I say that, there you go. Immediately, one team has been eliminated from this first map, and it's going to be in the hands of Watch and Learn. And just perfect performance early on, but they did suffer a bit of casualties, though. They traded 2 members for that. End of the day, they didn't get last place. They got 4 kills, and they were able to secure themselves a decent place to work with. I would say that's a win regardless.
Indeed, but a little bit of a too early kind of aggression coming from them. I am not too sure about that though, because if you take a look at the replays once again, we do have Watch and Learn. They are kind of like all around the places. We do have Venom at this point in time being the last member remaining, but he did manage to survive with just a sliver of health and helped his other teammate right back up on his feet though. So 4 kills to their name with only 2 members left. At this point of time, the only thing that they can pretty much do is to play a passive gameplay. They can't go around with guns blazing in the skies anymore. They can't run through the horizons. They need to creep around like a small, short little tortoises because they can't afford to be in a firefight with a 4-man strong team. Otherwise, they will be heavily handicapped, and there wouldn't really be much things they could do.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's kind of the trade-off when you take these early fights, right? You either go big or go home. And for Watch and Learn's case, they definitely did get something in return. But as we say that, it seems like Son of Gun, they spotted out the Steady Squad on top of the hill. And Steady Squad now, they're in a very dire situation though. They're getting cornered by 2 different teams. They have Sons of Guns down the hill, and I believe they are also up against Divinity, who are within that vicinity as well. So Steady Squad, they were able to knock down one of the members, Miros from STP, but it still hasn't solved the issue that perhaps they have found themselves in a very precarious position. But Sons of Guns, they decide to rotate away from that location, so Steady Squad should have an easier time breathing for now.
Keratin going up north of Keratin would probably be a pretty good move, I would say. A little bit out of fire from most of the places, going out of the center of the map would be one way that you can secure yourself in a safer position. But that also means that you would lose the chance to be aggressive in the early games, because the early games is really the only time that you can start to be aggressive without too much repercussions, because you wouldn't be expect too much, third party going about. Because as you can remember, and for the past few minutes already, we've got a couple of team fights, but none of them are vouchering or third partying. Like right about now, Divinity Esports, they are literally firing their guns throughout the horizons, trying to kill people. Son of Gun is now going down real soon with 2 members down already, but yet no one is coming in to swoop in the kill, or even to try to take Divinity out, or perhaps even the weaker team out just yet. Because this is the nature of the early game.
I agree, and I think this is also a result of how Divinity has placed themselves in that compound, in that neighborhood early on, where Steady Squad were not able to kind of do anything to them. Steady Squad, then they were pincered by STP Son of Gun, and this kind of positioning forced their opponents to rotate away. And in the end, I think the eventual winner is going to be Divinity. They took down 2 members from STP Son of Gun, and now forcing the remaining survivors to play in a passive gameplay without much info where the other teams are. Divinity, they're going to have a field trip, and in fact, they might not just go for more and be more aggressive, because they've gotten themselves a heck of a loot box.
Unfortunately, no grenade launches. We'll be waiting for the point of time where we'll start to see more grenade launches, because usually we'll start to see grenade launches dominating in the late stages of the game and start to blast people into the oblivion for no apparent reason because of the large hitboxes of the grenades. But I'd like to see that happen in a while later. But for now, let us just zone in and take a look at what Steady Squad is doing, as well as who they are close to. And it does seem like the closest that they are with is going to be Bloody Hands, which they have opened fire. We do have Swa. They're just going to be opening fire onto ZJ. And although they are pretty far apart, I will say that Steady Squad should be pretty much A-okay for now, with a couple of warning shots over to Bloody Hands. This is going to signal over to Bloody Hands to not climb up the ridge so fast, so hastily, because, a party's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think if you're Bloody Hits in this situation, you have to expect someone from Steady Squad on the high ground, having that vantage point. But it seems like a conflict is inevitable, as Lemon's already got an intel of where the rest of Bloody Hits are. In fact, he's got them all corralled at this abandoned building. Shots are going to come down from the second floor, and perhaps Steady Squad, they're ready to go in for the kill. We're just going to see what happens right now with this bird's eye view. But they do have the man advantage in the 2 versus 4 in this particular compound. But Lemon is just going to vault right through the window, drops the glue wall to prevent some shots. So what a play, just ducking around that window. Blank almost goes down, but Lemon is holding off the rest of Bloody Head. All alone just runs through them without any regards and still makes them alive. And this is going to allow the rest of Steady Squad to take their vantage point. Pogs does take down Lemon, but at the cost of one of his teammates. And in fact, Shot's going to blow up Jay with that grenade. And it seems like Bloody Heads are going to slowly fall apart. Lemon eventually goes down, but Steady Squad now have the man advantage.
And it does seem like with only 3 men left from Steady Squad, they can definitely do something against Bloody Heads. We're looking at 3 versus 3, but unfortunately, it does seem like Bloody Heads is going to be the one with their back against the wall because they are stuck within a compound. While Steady Squad, they do have a decent amount of understanding as to where Bloody Heads is. With one person right at the balcony, one person that's outside of the compound, they do have sights of all the blind areas, and thus, Bloody Heads, they don't really have a lot of places to run off to. The only thing that they can do is to brute force their way through and through of Steady Squad. Because you can see here, from the bird's eye view, Shots is somewhere around the compound. Swa is opposite and Axel is in between. He does have a couple of that glue walls in there, but unfortunately, here we have the vouchering action coming in from Divinity. Shira swoops in, goes in for the shots onto Axel, and this is going to be one of the best time for Divinity Esports to appear. And who knows, maybe Steady Squad as well as Bloody Head will find themselves in a horrible position as Divinity Esports climbs up from the ridge. They are taking themselves in a pretty good location, but they're not fully committing just yet because they don't have enough information as to how many people's inside the compound and how many people's escaping.
Yeah, and I think with the intervention of Divinity, it allows Bloody Head and Steady Squad to kind of reposition themselves. And it seems like Steady Squad, they have completely abandoned the initiative to take out Bloody Head because they don't want to suffer more casualties right now. Divinity, they are the team that has that high ground advantage. So you don't want to be engaged in a gunfight and end up losing everything to a third party. So I think Steady Squad made the right choice to back off. But now Bloody Head, they will be the one to take the brunt of that decision where they will continuously be stuck in that building. I do agree that they should have brute forced their way out of Steady Squad's grip earlier, but that was not the case. So right now, they would be the scapegoat of Steady Squad's action. But Geek Fam now, they found themselves a pretty decent place to work with. At the same time, Supreme Assault Force will be the team in front of them. Perhaps it's going to be an inevitable conflict with how the Blue Zone is heading.
I'm really looking forward to see how Hazik is going to pull off the Vector Akimbo here, because we all know how Vector Akimbo is, because the Vector Akimbo literally is a league of his own with higher fire rate, and although with bad accuracy, but with a great bursting power. Anyone that comes in too close to Hazik is definitely going to take the fall, and thus taking in very close angles is definitely going to be the way to play the Vector Akimbo. But for now, let us just move on from Geek Fam, because now we are starting to see a little bit more action right on top of Divinity, because they are all right out in the open fields, and the only thing that will be helping them is going to be a couple of glue walls and perhaps even some of the dome from Chrono's active ability. We do have a grenade being tossed down. Unfortunately, was not able to get a shot down to Sua, and the rest of Divinity Esports just going to be going straight down, brute forcing their way right in front of his face and putting the bullets in between of his eyes. And unfortunately for SS, they have one man down. Shots from the other side of the ridge has also been defeated by Wheels, and thus, I believe, if I remember correctly, we only have a single member left from the side of Steady Squad.
And that is just unfortunate for Steady Squad. You know, they were never really able to come together in this first round. They did against Bloody Head, but I'm surprised that they split apart after they rotated away from that compound. And now Divinity are the biggest winners. And in fact, they're going to get a collateral damage as well. It's going to be Wills who helped them take out Steady Squad. But at the end of the day, it's Divinity getting those extra kills, bagging those extra points. Already 4 in the bag. It's about to be more as a AKO also comes in. It's an auto knockout. They join the fight. But is going to be at the hands of Geek Fam, where Geek Fam, they survived that inevitable conflict at that area in that abandoned factory. Divinity gets themselves 6 kills, might be 7 if they clean out that last member from the side of views, and it is not going to be the case. That person dies to the blue zone, but nonetheless, Divinity, they still get a lot out of that.
And of course, 6 kills is quite a feat for Divinity, but they are not gonna stop just yet. We know how strong they are. Batman always have great numbers on his head, and I'm gonna be looking forward to how they're gonna be doing things, because right now Voidface have managed to scout out the members of the opposition, and that is going to be Geek Fam, one of their biggest enemies in this tournament. In the meantime, two teams is going to be out, and one of the teams is going to be Secret Movement, and thus with only 5 teams left within this small confinement of an area. Auto Knockout with still 4 men strong, hiding themselves behind the dome, as well as a couple of rock formations. Going to be tossing right out a little bit of lead towards the side of Divinity Esports, and that is going to put Divinity Esports sandwiched in between of Auto Knockout as well as Geek Fam. How exactly are they supposed to get themselves out of this current scenario as the zone slowly closes? That is something that we'll only find out in a short while, as we got Mr. D pushing right out. Most of his leads are not hitting. He has to run himself right into the zone because the zone is just too darn painful. He's right in front of the opponent's face. Guns are receiving a couple of lead, but unfortunately, it does seem like Miru and Mr. D is going to be the first one to go straight down, and that is going to put Auto Knockout at 2. Make that 1. And Shura is going to be the last man remaining. He's just trying to fort himself right on top of the glue wall, but it does seem like Mr. D climbed back up onto his 2 feet. And the 2 of them is going to be the last 2 men remaining coming in from Auto Knockout, while Geek Fam from the other side, other corner of the map, all 4 of them is still alive as well. It does seem like Geek Fam as well as Divinity, they are on quite a stalemate, because they all have 6 kills to themselves, with Axac with a naughty shot coming in from the AWM, just putting on all the lead in between of their eyes, and Mr. D has been left crouching in the middle of nowhere. Shura had no way to come into his rescue, and thus Geek Fam with 4 and Divinity with only 1. How exactly is Divinity supposed to get himself out of this current situation, as the zone is supposed to push them right away and right out of where they were? Hazik from the other side of the trees managed to put the final shot down and the final nail in the coffin right onto Divinity, but unfortunately it is all too late. The positions has already been uncovered. We do have Son of Gun from the other side. Make that a change, because it does seem like Son of Gun has been eliminated by Do Easy. Oh no, it is not actually not Do Easy, it's actually Awesome. This is getting awesome, with Geek Fam getting eliminated at number 2. And with that all said and done, Awesome is the one